Welcome to the Black Business Podcast, where we help Black entrepreneurs, Black business owners, and Black consumers connect their Black dollars. Now, here's your host, Jenny Jones.
Hello, it's great to be with you today. I am Jenny Jones, your host of the Black Business Podcast, and joining me today is Miss Dana Cooper of Baltimore, Maryland, and she is here with her law firm, Cooper Legal. Today's show is brought to you by the $5marketinggarage.com, where all of your online digital marketing needs are met inside the garage. You have no idea what's about to happen in this show. I am so excited. Our guest found time in her busy schedule, and she is super busy, but she is busy trying to help the people out, and I really appreciate that. She found time to join us here today on the Black Business Podcast, where we connect entrepreneurs, small businesses, and consumers with their Black dollars. Wow. Without further ado, I can't believe this is happening. This is like Christmas. Without further ado, please welcome Miss Dana Cooper from Cooper Legal. Welcome to the show, Dana.
Thank you, Jenny. How are you today?
I am doing well. I cannot believe you found time in your busy schedule. And I got to tell you, I really do appreciate you finding time to meet with us today here. And listen, I expedited. I think we were going to meet in a month or two from now. I just begged you, I said, please find time, and you did. And so listen, before we kind of get started, and as I welcome all of my guests here, if we got on an elevator and we were going to the 47th floor, quickly tell me in your elevator pitch, who is Cooper Legal?
Okay, so let me just first thank you again for having me today. It is my pleasure to sow seeds back into my community. So my name is Dana Cooper. I am the owner and managing attorney of Cooper Legal. Cooper Legal is a small law firm located in the DMV area. And we service small to mid-sized businesses, and we help them do everything from formation to expansion. So whatever your needs are, we can assist you with whatever needs you need. We pride ourselves in being a one-stop shop for small businesses. I think the reason that you have me here today really is to focus on IP protection. One of the biggest mistakes that a lot of small businesses make is failing to protect their intellectual property, which makes them very vulnerable. So one of the primary areas that we service are intellectual property needs.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, you knew I was going to go there. I kind of want to, we're not going to jump right into it. I kind of want to get some of your background. Okay. I want to get some of your background and kind of get, we got to throw some credentials around a little bit. Right. So I mean, but that is the reason why I want you on this show. There's no denying what's going on out here. And we'll kind of talk about that a little bit more. That's about a 2-hour show, but we're not going to make it a 2-hour show. But listen,
not today, but in the future, I'm open to a part 2 or part 3.
Okay. And that's fine. I mean, and we may have to have you come back and concentrate on some other areas. So listen, so the people that are seeing you or listening to you now, Tell the people a little bit about your background and they're saying, hey, listen, if I call Cooper Legal, Miss Dana, if I call her, what kind of credentials does she have or who is she? She just surfaced on the scene on the Black Business Podcast. Who is she?
Okay, so Dana Cooper is HBCU bred. I am a two-time rattler. I am a two-time rattler. I have my undergraduate degree is from Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University. I have a bachelor's of science in political science with a concentration in public administration. And then in 2004, I went to FAMU's law school. Well, no, I graduated in 2004 from undergrad, but in 2009, I went to FAMU's law school for a year, but then I transferred to University of Baltimore. So my law degree is actually from University of Baltimore.
Nice. And it's funny. I don't want to make the show too much about you and I don't really want to try to share with people how we came about, but listen, I stumbled upon her because I was in a bind. I had someone trying to steal my intellectual property, and I had all of these attorneys contact me. And I'll just like, hey, I don't know who to trust, who to go with. But when I reached out to her, she gave me some education. She says, hey, listen, this is A, this is Z. So these are the decisions. I'm going to help you regardless of what road you want to go down. So do you remember any of that? Not to getting too many of the details, but do you kind of remember where I was at in that situation?
Oh yeah, but we're not going to talk about that because I didn't like you when I first met you. No, I'm just kidding.
Wow. I find out on a podcast.
No, I'm kidding. No, actually I did. I did like you. I appreciate, sometimes people are intimidated or bothered by people, I don't want to say telling them how to do their job, but are put off by a bunch of questions. They feel like they're being challenged. But I encourage my clients to question me, because at the end of the day, you're paying some good money for, although I provide good services, you're going to get your money's worth. But whenever you're paying for a service, you should walk away from that and you should be able to articulate what happened. And especially, I think in a legal situation, clients need to be able to walk away from that conversation with some knowledge. You've paid some money for this. So you need to know how to be able to proceed going forward. So no, I appreciated those questions. And it also, it challenges me to just be a better service provider.
So here's what she's basically saying. When I reached out to her, I'd already talked to like 5 attorneys and I was really livid. And when I got on the phone with her, and actually she was the first female attorney that I had spoken to, and I just started drilling with her all these questions. And I guess she's like, wait a minute, what's up with all the questions? But so now that we're on the podcast and now that we're having this conversation, that's the reason why I'd already spoke to about 5 different attorneys. None of them looked like you and I, right? They didn't have our,
you know what? Yeah, and I could tell that they hadn't taken any time with you as well.
And they didn't.
We kept going over the same thing over and over again. And I said, that's not the law. That's not how this works. You're going to lose. We can't do that. Like, that's not how this works. So I could tell that so a lot of times, people go out there, they'll Google firms, they'll go to LegalZoom. And again, that is what I'm saying. Like, a lot of firms do not do the amount of hand holding that I do. Because for me, especially for minority and small owned businesses, it's important. It is a passion of mine to make sure that they have the knowledge to be able to protect their rights. I know we're short on time, but the reason that I feel that way is because my mother went up against a Fortune 500 company, because what happened was they stole her IP as a consultant. And it damn near put her out of business. And so that is why
IP is intellectual property.
Exactly.
Okay.
So intellectual property, for those of you who don't know, we're talking copyrights, trademarks, and patents. Okay. I don't do any patent work, but the work that I did for Jenny was trademark protection, but I do copyright protection. And I'm not going to steal your show, but let me just say this real quick. So a lot of small businesses are very vulnerable, because what happens is that there may be some lurkers on the internet, and what they will do is they'll just steal the work, because now this thing has already been invented, this thing has already gained some traction, and they'll just steal it. And the bigger companies, believe it or not, are some of the biggest violators, because now what you've gotten is free labor. So,
okay. And by the way, that's not still in the show. That's not still in the show. I want you to elaborate on that. Okay. So tell us about when you go out, you start pumping the name, you pumping it on Instagram, you're pumping it on all the social media, and somebody's watching you pump it. So next thing you know, let's say you got 1 million followers, let's just say. That's already intellectual capital, if you will, because you've already did a lot of the work already. And then at the same time, because you're not educated on the law, they come behind you, trademark your stuff, your name and all that. And then what they do, try to come back and try to, what do you call
sell
it?
It back to you.
They try to sell it back to you, right? So it's
Sell
like
it back
holding
to you.
hostage, right?
Yes, exactly. I'll tell you, I have a perfect example. University of Michigan. That's what they did.
Hold on, are we
I
dropping
can't.
names? Can we drop names? Don't be dropping now. Don't be
Oh, that's
dropping
on my
names. Give us.
website. Oh, we can drop names
Okay,
because
all right, go ahead.
for
I
me,
know you an attorney, you know. So
for me, it's important. It's public record. They can go pull the case. For
okay,
me, it's important that, again, small businesses protect their brands and protect their intellectual property. And it's even more important for me to put these big businesses on notice that I'm out here educating small businesses so that you can't just come usurp their rights and think that you're going to walk away with it. The current case that I'm working, I'm not going to drop any names.
all right,
But
yeah, cool.
they're a huge company as well. But no, for instance, University of Michigan, I do believe that, they adopted their trademark in good faith. But what happens is a lot of times these big businesses, they think they can get away with it because they know that the small company does not have the resources to fight them on it. So what happened was, even though I believe that they had good faith adoption, they're the big kahuna, right? So
right.
why are we going to capitulate to this small company, right? Why are we going to bow down? We have the deep pockets, we have the money, so let's just have this person exhaust their funds and give up. But my client wasn't giving up. And so what ended up happening is they manufactured evidence, what we strongly believe, that they manufactured evidence to try to support what they needed to get the trademark across the finish line, right? So that they could get it registered, and my client would just give up. Okay. Right. Again, all this is on public record. My name is not Miss Cleo, right? So I can't read minds. I don't know that they manufacture evidence, but the objective evidence looks like that's what they did. Okay. And that's what we alleged. That's what we alleged in the case. And so what happened? So again, they were thinking, let me just drag this person along, as long as I can, until they lose their money, and then we would win. But 18 months later, they withdrew.
So let me, and that's a small victory, and I appreciate you sharing that with us here. It's not a small victory in general; it's a big victory. I'm just saying I'm glad you shared that victory with us here on this podcast. But let me ask you something. So one of the things I realized, even dealing with a legal attorney such as yourself, I've always done all my own trademarks on my own. And so let me share the pros and cons of that, because I think it's very important. So I've done all my own trademarks. I have about 5 trademarks right now, and everything was fine when there's no issue, right? And so what I wanted to bring up in that is, yeah, it may be inexpensive to go that route or try to go that route. What we found out in my case was I tried to go the inexpensive route, right? And it ended up costing me in the long run because an exhaustive search was not performed, right? And that's what we ended up finding out. It's like, had an exhaustive search was performed, Mr. Jenny Jones, that I don't like at first, but now I like. I'm gonna give you a hard time about that. So had an exhaustive search been done correctly the first time, Mr. Jenny Jones, you really wouldn't even be having this problem. Matter of fact, it would have been a lot less expensive for you to do it that way than the other way around. I'm sorry.
I would say in your situation, it wouldn't. So it's called a comprehensive search. There's no one. Right. When someone says exhaustive, I'm thinking once that's done, then you're 100% clear. There's no 100%, but you could have, in your case, there could have been a more comprehensive search, right?
I see.
And it would have, we probably would have found our competitor, and then you and I would have had a conversation about how you wanted to proceed. So instead of having to drop all that money at once, you would have known 8 months prior to the point when you had to engage me that this was a potential challenger to your application, right? So you would have been prepared. It wouldn't have been such a surprise to you because I would have, very likely I would have, because it was so close, I would have found that other person and we could have said, do you want to start over or do you want to assume the risk associated with proceeding with this, knowing that they may potentially challenge you. So that's the benefit of having that comprehensive search.
And that's what I appreciate by working with you. I will give you that. You kind of gave me back with options. You're like, listen, we can go option 1, we can go option 2, we can go option 3. And then, so me being a business owner, small business owner, if you will, what's the cost associated with option 1, option 2, option 3? So then I had to go back and I had to figure out which way was going to work best for me and my budget, and how much was I willing to fight for it and things of that nature. So again, enough about us. I just wanted to give the example of how you do work and you go beyond to try to make sure that we're in the right position to. And one thing I noticed about you, and I'm gonna just put you on blast. You don't like to lose. You don't like to lose. And you're like, oh no, we not losing. If we play this card, this is going to happen. This is how this domino is going to fall. And you've been right. I'll give you that credit. Even though you're going to say you don't like me, I'm going to tell everybody right now. I'm going to leave that alone. But no, I like the way, that's where I really wanted to have you on the show. I know a couple other attorneys, you are the only intellectual property attorney that I know, but I am going to have some other attorneys on the show, African-American, that I like working with. I like the way they think. And one thing I wanted to build out this platform for is because we're unicorns, right? People don't think we exist. People don't think you exist. They don't think it's an African-American sister out there that's protecting the intellectual property of these small Black business owners who all of a sudden get hit with a pandemic and they say, well, I had a pandemic, I'm gonna start my own clothing line, right? So then they start putting up logos online and they start putting things on their IG, everybody's seeing it. They're not even knowing about the whole legal ramifications behind that. They don't even know what all these things they need to be putting in place to do that. And that's really the reason why I wanted you on the show. So can you give us some more tips? Give us your one top pet peeve right now in this environment for our African Americans. Give us one piece of juicy fact that we should be trying to make sure that
when you say in this environment, what do you mean?
Well, what I mean by this aggressive, everybody wants to start a business tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
Everybody wants to start a clothing brand. Everybody wants to start a brand. I got a clothing brand I'm working on. I got a clothing line I'm working on. I got,
Just do it.
Yeah.
And hopefully Nike don't come after us. Hey. But I say just do it and step out on faith. A lot of times, so I do believe in planning, but most businesses fail at the first opportunity, the first time they step out. But sometimes you're not going to be able to get in the groove and really figure out what your thing or what your niche is until you've gotten out there and you've tried it. So you may decide that, I want to start a clothing line, but that fails. But there are things that you learned in trying to launch that you may be able to apply in a different business. So maybe you decided, okay, I don't want to be on the front end, but I found a great, wholesaler or distributor on the back end, and it's less work for me to just be the distro, right? So, and not to actually be, doing on-demand t-shirts, but it's different for everyone. So you have to really figure out what it is that is your passion. And you won't know that until you get out there and do it. You'll realize that, I don't really like this. So I actually encourage people to just go out there and just do it. Of course you want to educate yourself as much as possible. But I encourage people to do it. Talk to somebody. Well, I always encourage that you talk to an attorney first. Just pay for the 1 hour consult. You're going to pay what? $200, $300, maybe. Even if you pay $500. Even if you pay $500, because you're in California, so y'all might be paying like $500 or $600 an hour. Even if you pay $500, that's better than having to pay $5,000 to clean up the mess that the lawyer would have told you for $500.
I'm a witness to that. You think 500 is a lot.
I had another client. They had something developed, and it ended up costing them 5 figures for what they could have paid me an hour to tell them a different road to go down. We had to start all over.
Wow. So one thing I learned from you, and it's funny, I was channeling my inner Miss Cooper online the other day because someone was like, hey, when should I get a trademark? I said, listen, well, my trademark attorney had told me was, hey, as soon as you consider it no longer a hobby, that's when you need to start trademarking it. When you start making some money. And that's so true because, and one thing I also learned from you is if you're using it, it's best to already be using it once you come along with your trademark. Because once you start trademarking it, they're going to be asking for use and all that. That's another topic. But what you're saying is just do it, just go out there and start doing it and then come along with your trademark right behind it and keep everything moving. Is that a fair statement?
Absolutely. The one word that we haven't used today is investment. Okay. When you're thinking about starting a business or creating some brand awareness, you're going to have to make an investment behind it. Nobody wants to pay lawyers, but they'll go out and they'll pay all this money for their product. They'll go pay all this money for a graphic designer when none of that is going to be any good if you haven't taken the appropriate steps to protect it on the front end. It is an investment to protect your intellectual property. And again, these people who are stealing it know that because they wouldn't steal it if it wasn't worth something. So why wouldn't you protect that? You need to protect your intellectual property. It is an investment. It is your reputation of your business. We all know trademarks. Trademarks are important to a brand identity because what that tells us is there's a reputation behind this. When we think of someone's trademark, we think of their reputation, the goodwill behind that. So why wouldn't you invest in your reputation?
Now that's an asset and that's goodwill, right?
That was the next thing I was going to go to.
If you get a million, go ahead. Don't do you.
Your intellectual property is the most important, and it's really an intangible, right? You can't touch it, you can't feel it, but it is probably the most important part of your business. Again, number one is your reputation. Once you have built up a certain level of goodwill in your business or whatever this thing is that you have, created, you can use that as collateral to invest in your business. So if you've built up enough reputation or goodwill behind it, you can go to the bank and you can use that as security to get funds to help run your business, right? Why wouldn't you make an investment in that on the front end? Sometimes, I recognize that people don't understand that, but that is how important your intellectual property is because you can leverage it on so many different levels and in so many different ways to help expand your business.
Wow. So that you said a mouthful right there. Let's unpack a little bit of that. So my background being an accountant, right? You can look up any public company, whether it be Pepsi, Coca-Cola, Nike, you're going to see a line item on their balance sheet that says goodwill, right? It's going to be on the asset side, assets, things that you own that tangible go up in profit, whether it's receivables or anything like that. If your goodwill is your name recognition. Let's say you go out and you start a following now, man, I got 4 million Instagram followers. I'm being ridiculous, but that could possibly happen. You have 4 million Instagram followers, right? You have built up goodwill in that name. That is something you can go to a bank and say, hey, listen, I got 4 million followers. You know how much that's worth? You know how much influence I have? And so you can borrow against that. That really becomes your collateral. Am I speaking the same language? Yeah. And so, and I never really realized, I was just getting, because it was easy to get a trademark at LegalZoom or whatever. It's like, whatever. I never realized how powerful it is until I engaged with work with Ms. Cooper. She has educated me. She has brought me up on the game, right? And I said, man, I got to have on a show. Y'all don't know how much I begged to have on this show, but listen, she's a good resource. Want you guys to be able to reach out to her. Is there any parting words or anything you have to say to let's talk about the young entrepreneur, right? Because it's like every time I look around, everybody's trying to start a brand, right? Everybody's going to be the next FUBU or the next whatever. And it's a lot behind a brand, right? Mm-hmm. It's a lot behind a brand. And that's really for naught if somebody gets to it before you. And real quick story, I was just looking at my email last night And someone emailed me yet again saying, hey, do you want to buy your domain name? Right. And they're like, do you want to buy Financial Evangelist? I'm like, dude, I already own the Financial Evangelist. Quit. And they're trying to sell it to me for several $1,000s. So what would have happened had I not got my domain name, had I not put all my trademark? I would be really being held hostage right now for that. So do you want to share anything? I know you got a lot of experience, a lot of stories, but I'm talking about the young entrepreneurs. Just, man, I want to start their brand tomorrow. Because again, you could start a brand, you could get shipments from China and all that other. This is a new economy. You could start your own brand tomorrow. So is there anything that you want to share with either a entrepreneur, or even a regular small business owner right now, or even a consumer for that matter?
Again, invest in your brand and educate yourself. To me, those are the two biggest things that you need to do. If you really, really are strapped for money and you can't talk to a lawyer, there are lawyers out here who will provide pro bono services. There are your local SBA typically partners with SCORE. So you would go to score.org and they'll put you with a business coach for free. So you just have to know where to go to the resources. If you are a creative, most states have a volunteer lawyers of the arts, which I volunteer with in DC, Maryland, Chicago, and it's another one. But they will offer you pro bono services. So the lawyer is the first thing you need to do, because they're going to tell you, they should be helping to educate you and tell you what the implications of your actions. So whichever route you're trying to go, because it costs you. Everyone thinks that lawyers are just trying to get their money. Even this guy told me, he's like, you just gonna spend the retainer. You gonna just make sure you give me enough. You gonna spend all the money. I said, I'm going to make money regardless. If you don't listen to my advice now, I'm gonna get paid more later, because it's gonna cost you 10 times over for me to clean it up. So it's not about.
She right.
Yeah. So it's not about, even if I charged you, and I don't charge $500 for a consult, but even if I charged you $500 for a consult, that's not me trying to get over, because when you mess it up, I'm gonna give 5,000.
Yeah, unfortunately, she's keeping it real.
Educate yourself and invest in your brand. Those are the two most important things that you need to do on the front end. And if you really are strapped for cash, there are free legal resources out there that will help you get started, so that you can eventually make that investment.
And see, here's my thing, and I appreciate you sharing that. Let me tell you what's so powerful in us having this discussion. This is foreign, right? We're African Americans. We're two African Americans. I'm a business owner. You're a business owner. We need to support each other, right? You know, and one thing we talked about, and I talked about, I'm in a lot of African American only rooms, business only rooms, and one thing we always constantly talk about is don't shortchange yourself. If that's your services, that's how much your services cost. And you don't know. I didn't know how much went into that. She's like, we have to go back and look at. She went back and started looking at when they first tried to use it, or we had to go into an electronic archive. And so there was a lot of research that had to be done. And I'm like, man, for real, all that needs to be done? It's just like, yeah. And I didn't know that. So I have a lot more respect for attorneys. I have a very good fraternity brother who is an attorney. Say that real quick. Fraternity brother who is an attorney. He tells me about this all the time, and he talks about the research and the law books that he have to read and look at the different cases. If they won this case, if this case is favorable like this in the past, and it'll more likely be favorable for you. And so there's a lot that goes into that. But what I want to say as we kind of bring this to a close is support this sister. She's out here doing IP, right? Intellectual property, trying to protect your brand. Some of you guys will have brands that will take off, and your brand will be in Macy's, or it'll be in JCPenney's, or wherever it's going to be. And you'll probably end up, your brand will blow up, and somebody will come and buy you out, right? And to have a good IP attorney in your back pocket that you know that you can connect with is going to be a benefit in the long run. And support this sister. She out here, she's trying to do it right. She's got the credentials, right? We want to go and take our money and pay all these other people. She's got the same credentials. And I'm going to tell you something that she left out, but I'm going to say it, right? She like, what he about to say? In her position, in my position, everybody knows I'm in finance, and in her position, she's in legal. We can't be good. We have to be great. We can't settle for just being mediocre. You want to comment on that? I know you want to get in on that one, Ms. Cooper.
Yeah, well, I don't think we have enough time for that. But it's interesting because I actually just applied for a grant, and that is actually one of the lines in my grant. As a minority business owner and as a Black woman, I do not have the option to, or the privilege to be mediocre. We just don't.
Right.
We just don't. It is a privilege.
Right.
It is a privilege to be able to be, get into Harvard with a C, whatever his GPA was, right? But when you know the right people and your skin color is the right skin color, you are privileged to be only half of. No, perfect example: Obama and Trump. Obama had to be 5,000 times better than what we got in the office now. That's a privilege. Black people don't have the privilege. I'm sorry. I'm just going to tell it like it is. But
you're keeping it real.
He had to be, he had to be a Harvard grad. He had to be, have no scandals. The biggest scandal he had was a tan suit. He wore a tan suit and put mustard on his hot dog or whatever it was.
Hey, I put mustard on my hot dog, so don't.
Or whatever it was, they made a big deal out of it on Fox. But
no, and go ahead.
Yeah, but my point is, Trump doesn't have those. A lot of, he doesn't have the pedigree behind him that Barack Obama had. So again, that's a privilege to be mediocre and still be president.
I think you said a mouthful. You said a mouthful, and that's true. And I just wanted our listeners and our viewers to hear that we can't, you guys have heard my story. I just being in stocks and bonds and all that, I was a unicorn as it was, right? And so I would like to end the show there just saying that, hey, you come to us, it's still the level of professionalism that you're going to get anywhere else, but we're trying to spend our Black dollars with us. So we trying to, if we don't support this sister, then she may not be around for us when we really actually do need IP, right? And so support her or send people to her or recommend her or just, hey, have them reach out to her. Now, I'm going to put you on spot like I've been putting a couple of my other, as I kind of bring it to a close. Do you have any special for any of our listeners or any of our viewers? Because I'm going to put you in our mall. You'll be in our mall. They'll be able to find you in the professional services. Is there anything special for the viewers that you're going to offer? Is there anything? A $5 coupon, something, or can I get the Jenny Jones discount or what? Do you have anything for our listeners that we only know that they listen to this show or this episode if they drop this or they drop that? So I know you weren't prepared for that, but I'm just put you on the spot.
I wasn't, but what I will do is I will give $100 off of a 1 hour consult.
Ooh, $100. Damn.
And I already apply. So the reason that that's so great is because I already apply a portion of that consult to the services that you retain me for. So part of that consult fee is already going towards your services. So basically your consult may be like $50, $70. I'm not going to say what it is right now.
We never know. We never know when this is going to publish and, things may be different. But so no, I appreciate that. My listeners appreciate that. My viewers appreciate that. And I appreciate you. Because you could have been like, nah, dude, I ain't giving nothing up. But I appreciate that because we're trying to create a network of us supporting us. And this is the first step. It's like, listen, hey, we're throwing you a lifeline if that's something that you wanted to do. So I appreciate you joining us today here on the Black Business Podcast, where we try to connect entrepreneurs, small business owners, and consumers to their Black dollars. Please like, subscribe, share. We're trying to grow, right? If you're trying to find all these different companies, all these black owned American companies all over the United States. We're trying to find them. That is our goal. We're trying to find them. They're somewhere hidden. We had her. She was in Baltimore, Maryland. We found her. We were in California. We found her, put her on the show. So like, subscribe, share. We're trying to grow. We appreciate you. Until next time, peace.
Bye. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Black Business Podcast, where we help Black entrepreneurs, Black business owners, and Black consumers connect their Black dollars. Hosted by Jenny Jones. If you like what you heard, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to our podcast. If you want to learn more about all our podcast guests and spend your Black dollars with them, visit our online store at shopblackbusinesspodcast.com.